All right. Hey, what's up, man? I'm here with my good friend, Coach Arthur Berlanga, and super excited to have you. I know you have your own show. You are a husband and a father and a coach and a teacher and all kinds of cool things.
Yeah,
No stranger to the stage, no stranger to podcasts. We were just talking about it offline, how we actually did a live together during the pandemic,
right.
and it was with you and your awesome wife, Jessica. And I quickly realized, you know what? They each need their own interview because you guys are so dynamic, So we're going to go ahead and fulfill that promise now, years later, and start off with you. So I know you got a lot of awesome wisdom to share and have been through some transition yourself in the
Yeah,
past year. So we have a lot of mutual friends, and I'm just, I'm proud of you
hey,
and the willingness to take risks, the willingness to be a leader. And those of us that are kind of millennials that are, kind of in our late 30s, early 40s, kind of stepping into that transition where we're taking care of young kids, taking care of our parents, stepping up
mhm,
in our careers, finishing up
mhm,
school, all the things, right? So, basically what I like to talk about is, tell us your story and talk about some challenges that you've overcome in that story, and then just kind of where you're going and anything you want to share, with anyone who's watching. So anyway, welcome, and would love to hear what's new with you.
hey, thank you, Jordan. Thanks, man. I'm privileged to be here, man, and I'm honored to thank you for the kind words. And it's definitely a team, man, with my wife Jessica and I, and just the things we've been through together. We've grown together, and we just celebrated our 13th, no, I'm sorry, 12-year wedding anniversary this past early January. So,
Wow, congratulations.
hey, man, thank you. We're a team, right? We're a team. We have good days and bad days, like everybody else. Sometimes
Yep.
we're firing, we're flowing, and then some days we can't get on the same page, like any other team in America, in
Yep.
America, right? So,
Yep.
but yeah, a little bit about me, Jordan. I'm a local guy, right? I grew up in Soledad, California, and my parents were very hardworking, right? They set the example, man. They set the standard early, and it was very obvious growing up, right? Where we had certain chores every single day. We had to be we made if we gave our word or something, we had to see it through, we had to follow through. And my dad taught my brothers and sisters and I that very, very early on, man, where if you give your word or something, you make a commitment verbally or non-verbally, more specifically, you better see it through, right? You better what you start, you better finish. So just working parents, man, right? I was an athlete growing up, and as you know, right, and we even competed against each other in high
Yep.
school, right,
Yep.
on the hardwood, as they call basketball, right?
Yep.
So yeah, man, three-sport athlete in high school, two-sport athlete at the community college level, where I did football and track and field at Hartnell Community College. I was actually the first graduating class, man, at a solid high school in 2001.
That's
So
right.
that's a fun fact.
That game we played against each other, I think, was the first sporting event.
At the
It was the
school.
first game ever played on that gym.
That's
So
right.
we can say that, which was what, 20 something years ago.
Did some time. Did some
23,
time, man.
24, something like
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah,
Crazy how time flies.
yeah, absolutely, man. So yeah, I just grew up an athlete, man. I wasn't really big on school. That's where a lot of my challenges, where I found a lot of my challenges was academically because I just didn't put the effort in. It had
Mm,
nothing to do with ability, had nothing to do with intelligence. It just had everything to do with work ethic and
mm,
commitment to my to my schooling and my academics, right? And once I one year, man, I remember it was my senior year in college. It was a really pivotal moment for me, man, where I was like, you know what, man? I started coaching. This is my first year coaching, but I didn't finish school, right? So I was finishing my degree while coaching at the same time. So I was like, you know what? Let me commit to this education thing. Let me commit to getting finishing my degree, and let's just see what happens, man. I already know what kind of athlete I can be when I commit to that craft, right? Now let's see what kind of student I can be. So,
mm.
so sure enough, man, I really committed myself. Jordan, it was by far probably the most I'm very proud of that moment, right? Where I graduated, got my degree, not only
Yeah.
my bachelor's degree, but I got my master's on top of that as well.
Wow.
So I could even continue education after my bachelor's degree. But it was single-handedly the most difficult thing I had to accomplish in my life because wasn't the best student. I didn't have the best studying habits. I didn't understand my intellect at the time. I was just maneuvering, taking shortcut after shortcut, right? Trying to get to the finish line. But I realized, man, you can't take shortcuts, right? And you can't take shortcuts in education, right? At least in my major. So
Yeah.
I learned the hard way, man. Where I learned I had to do the work. I had to put the time in. I had to do the work.
Yeah. I love that. And I mean, kudos to you for doing that and with having a family and having a career and finishing school. I wish that I would have, known what I know now, right? Of course, hindsight's 2020, but I wish that at 18, 19, I would have, graduated with our class. You're, I think, a year ahead of me, but I wish I would have done all this then, college, military, get it out of the way in your early 20s when you have the most energy and the least responsibility, right? I highly recommend. I mean, there's no one path for everyone, right? Everyone has their own path to walk, and it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to change your mind. And who you are at 18 is not who you're going to be at 30 or 40, right? Um, but there is, I think, a time to do certain things, right? That is optimal. So I
Yeah.
myself, even though I didn't do it at the age I should have, I decided at 39 to go back to school. So I'm in the middle, almost done at heart now myself, and then I'll
Okay.
probably be going to CSUMB. But I agree. I was like, dang, this is harder than I thought. And
Okay.
it's not just the information; it's the discipline to study and to write a paper and to I mean, we could have a conversation like this on a high level, but to sit down and write down a college paper is like
Right.
a whole other use of your brain. So I was always kind of like, I could go to college if I wanted to, like, no big deal. Like, I have enough experience. And then I just decided, you know what? Um, I think I want to pursue this as a personal goal. I want to just accomplish that, and I want to encourage my kids to do it, and so therefore I should do it first, right?
Right. Right.
And so I don't have kids yet, but that would be the thought one day, right? And so I decided to go after it. And I'm about a year and a half in, and yeah, it's challenging. Even at the community college level, it's challenging.
Yeah.
But I'm super grateful, and I would encourage anyone who's thinking about it. If you're even thinking about it, that's probably in your heart for a reason, right? And there's more than one way to go about it, but there's so many options available. And I didn't know that until I started. Once I got over the hump of the fear and the anxiety and the like resistance, it was like, dude, why did I wait so long to do this?
Mhm.
I could have, And so anyway, but so at Hartnell, when you guys first went right after high school, you guys had pretty successful careers there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was all conference guy, one of the better players in the conference, and
In football.
in football, yes,
Okay.
football. And then I also participated in track and field, and we had a pretty good relay team when I was there. I think we made it the NorCal finals or the trials, can't
Yeah.
remember exactly. But I only did that to be faster in football. I didn't do
Yeah.
track because I enjoyed track. I actually did not like track at all. But I did
Uh,
it. You have to
yeah.
make certain right. You got to do
Yeah.
certain things you don't want to do to get where you want to where
I
you want
did
to.
track for basketball too, high jump and
Yeah.
hurdles.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
not just a testament, right? We're doing things that you don't want to do it because every single day when we wake up, there's many things we don't feel like doing or we want to do, but we know we need to do it in order for us to get to where we want to get to, right? And I
Right.
think that's what I learned about that process within my journey is I wasn't afraid to put even more work in to become the best football player I can be, even if it's running sprints every single day. And what thing about track is that people don't really, I don't know if they don't consider it or whatnot, it will check your ego quick, man.
Mm,
Quick. Because you have to get used to losing. You have to, I know that's probably not the most popular opinion to get used to losing, but you have to learn to lose in order for you to win, man. At least that was my experience within track and field, right? I lost
mhm.
so many races in the beginning because one, I was still getting in that process and transition of getting into shape, right? And
Yep.
as you know, when you do something long enough, reading, speaking, whatever that looks like, right? Communications, whatever that looks like, you're going to get better at those things, right?
Yeah.
If you continue to do it over and over. So that's exactly what I experienced, right? It was the process.
Yeah, and track and field is totally different in that, like in a team sport like football or basketball or soccer, um, it's you're going head to head with your opponent, and kind of like in wrestling. I know you have a fighting background as well, right? You're kind of like counter moves and all this kind of stuff. And track and field is kind of just like you're competing, but you're not like, slowing down and speeding up based on the person next to you. You're just
Right.
going for it and they're going for it. And a lot of times in basketball or in football, you can kind of size somebody up like, oh, that's a big guy or that's a fast guy. They're going to be good or whatever. They're going to hit hard. In track and field, I've seen some of the most incredible athletes you would never expect. And you're like, what the heck, that guy?
Right.
So track truly is, you can never judge a book by its cover, because you could see some of the most yoked out, like
Yeah.
jacked people out
Yeah.
on the starting blocks, and they get left in the dust by some skinny kid that you would never expect. And you're right, track and field can be very humbling.
Humbling, man. And yeah, and in my experience too, man, where not only as an athlete, but now as a coach, is that if you run away from competition, even though you know you're not going to win, like how many kids shy away from things because they know they can't win it, or
Right.
they know they're not going to be the best at it or going to be very good at it, right? Well, you got to start somewhere, man. Everybody starts somewhere. So
Yep.
I wasn't afraid of those things, man. And think and those are the tangibles or characteristics, as, if you will, that really separated me from everybody else
Hmm.
that was on the same level as me because I wasn't afraid to make myself very uncomfortable. I wasn't afraid to
Yeah.
experience humility and learn from those moments because I knew it was going to make me better in the long run.
Well, that yeah, and I agree, and that's me right now, going back to school and
Yeah.
being older than my professors, or being the oldest guy in the classroom, and old enough to be a parent to some of the students in the classroom, and that's humbling, but it's also cool to like just be in a learning environment again. And
Mhm.
now the other part is the gym, right? So being an athlete and being in the gym your whole life, and then going,
Mhm.
over a decade without that, it takes a toll, and life takes a toll, and you know 18-year-old metabolism and 35-year-old metabolism are very different,
Very
right?
good.
So you got
Very
to work twice as hard for half the results the older you get. And so but why I say that is because I something I've struggled with. I'm definitely haven't conquered it, but I'm doing it in the academic world. Now I'm ready to do it in the physical world because um we're all creatures of comfort. We're all human. It's easy to take the easy way out, to take the shortcut, to be comfortable, right? You don't want to get up when it's cold. Proud of myself. I This morning I was going to go for like a run outside. Way too damn cold, but at least I went to the gym. It's like little victories, right? I'm like, okay, but comfort like seems attractive in the moment, but after a while, even comfort becomes uncomfortable. And so you might
Mhm.
as well go through the uncomfortable work you need to do, whether it's in business, in school, at the gym, because the feeling of overcoming that discomfort and getting the reward is better than whatever not doing it would be. Because eventually, even that gets uncomfortable too. Even the comfort goes away. So, what do you think about that?
It's the tough. I just think, man, to really on the path and the journey of self discovery, you have to do things that are hard, man. You got to do things that are hard because everything you want is on the other side of hard.
Yeah.
It's on the other side of it, right?
Yeah.
Parenting would be the best parent you could be. Parenting's difficult, man. It's not easy, right? Being a spouse is also difficult. But in order
Yeah.
for you to be good at these things, you have to put time into it. You have to be very, very intentional, and you got to be. You have to work well with others.
Yeah.
You got to work well with others, right? It can't. It's not always about you. So everything we always. I think that's one of my messages when I speak to young people today, especially student athletes, is that you have these goals, you have these aspirations, but I hope you understand. I need you to understand that everything you want is on the other side of
Mm,
hard. And if you can get through hard, you're gonna be okay.
that's so good. So you went, obviously grew up with the values with your family in a small town, worked hard, succeeded at the high school level, at the community college level. What happened after you had all that success at Hartnell? What was next after that?
Got an opportunity to continue on my athletic journey in the game of football and college football. I went to Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction, Colorado,
Nice.
where I had a pretty good career there. Right, I had a great experience. Best time of my young adult life. Right, was
Yep.
at the 4 year university level and just playing the game and sport that I really enjoyed and really loved. And it's created a life that I have today, right? Because of the game, because of the sport. So now I just use all this experience that I've had as a player. Yeah. And now it's part of my platform, right? That's how I'm able to connect with people that I normally would never connect with, right? So the game of football, man, I'm forever indebted to the game, to the sport, because I've met so many people, man, along the way, both as an athlete and as a coach, that you can't put a price tag on, man. You
Yep.
know, the things that we were able to do together, accomplish together, learn together, and grow together. It's something that you can't experience any other way besides being in that huddle or being in that locker
Yep.
room or being in that coach's meeting, right? Just in my experiences, man, that's just how I see it. That's my journey. Everyone lives a different life, man. This is a lifestyle for me. It's not for everyone, and that's
Right.
okay. But this is my platform, right? This is my purpose. This is what I've been called to do, man. Was to coach the game of football and to lead men.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's a gift to have that clarity. And I'm sure you've had your moments of doubt, but I think part of what makes you so effective is that you defined who you are and what your purpose is. And everyone who knows you knows that. Right. Like if anybody knows you, they know that, right? Which is powerful. And what would you say, leaving your college career, and I think every athlete, whether they know it or not, everybody played their last game at some point, right? And some of us know because it's a retirement. Some of us, it just, like for me, I remember had a pretty good career in basketball and had some offers and should have went and played, but never ended up playing for my own reasons. And I really regretted that, not playing at the next level, just for the memories and for the camaraderie. And there's a lot of people in that category, especially in our area in the 831, that, some talented young people, but for whatever reason, their home life or issues with the coaches or politics or academics or whatever the case is, there's a lot of folks over the years I know that have been super talented, but for whatever reason just didn't fulfill that potential. And I'm one of them, and there's a day that you just stop playing. And sometimes sometimes you don't. But
Mhm.
that's a crazy thought that I think a lot of guys, there's that cliche of like, oh, you're living in the past. It's like, no, for some people it's a genuine issue. Like, authentically knowing they could have done well at the next level and not have done it, that's a deep regret that a lot of athletes have. But for you, when did you kind of know, like, okay, my playing days are over,
Yeah.
and I'm ready to be a coach?
I like this question here, Jordan. I remember I was playing arena football. I was in the Arena Football 2 League, the developmental league for arena football, the AFL. And I remember we were playing the team that was in first place in our conference, and I think we were competing for a playoff spot. So whoever won this game was going to go to take the last spot or make it to the playoffs. Right? It was a must win for us and our team. And I remember being in this arena, man, of like 8,000 plus people, right? And great environment. Something I've always wanted to be a part of or experience as an athlete, right? Just a packed stadium or packed arena. And I remember being there, Jordan, in the fourth quarter. Is a close game. And I remember looking around at the stadium, at the fans, and I remember thinking, like, man, I don't want to be here right now.
Mm,
I don't want to be here right now. So when that happened, man, that was in the second half, and the game was almost over at that point. And then I remember going to the locker room, going back to my room that night, man. I remember really reflecting, like, man, this is it. This might be it for me here, man. I'm done. I have nothing left to give. I have nothing left to prove, and it's just not fun for me anymore, right? The love of the sport was right then and there, just gone.
mm.
And I was never more clear that football was it for me that night. That was it.
As a
And
player.
as a player.
Yeah.
And I remember we lost that game. It was a close game. We ended up losing, and that was it. That was my last snap. That was my last game. And I have no regrets, man, because on the opposite side of what you just mentioned, as far as guys, just for whatever reason, their journey, their life, their decisions that they make throughout their life and their process, I didn't experience that, right? Because I just, you know what, I love this game so much that give it everything I got,
You
and that's what
maxed
I
it
did.
out.
Yes,
Yeah.
man, I have nothing left to give. When I was all said and done, Jordan, I really have nothing, left to give. People ask me all the one of the questions you get as a coach every year, if not many times throughout the season. It doesn't matter how old you are, coach. If you could play another game, would you play another game? If you play another series, would you play another series? If you could, it's like I have no desire to ever
Not with
wear.
these knees. No, I'm just kidding.
I
Just
have
kidding.
no desire to ever wear a helmet
Yeah.
ever again.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny you asked that question, man, because I remember just reflecting, like, man, I was just walking on the treadmill, I was just working out, and I remember thinking, like, man, I played my last high school snap against Greenfield High School because we thought we were going to go to the playoffs that year. We missed the CCS playoffs by a half a point that year, but
Oh,
we thought we were going to get in. We finished 7-3. We had a really good year.
would have under the new league and their weird structure. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly right. And I remember thinking, like, man, that was my last high school snap in my hometown, and I didn't even realize it.
Wow. Yeah.
It just hit me, and I turned 42 this month, man, and it just
Yeah.
barely hit me now. Like, man, I didn't
Right.
even realize I played my last snap or last game in my hometown at Solid High School.
Well,
That
that's cool that you had the self-awareness to, know that you were done. A lot of people don't have that enough, like, ability to reflect within themselves. But was it a totally different, I guess, like parenting? Was it a totally different thing, or did coaching allow you to kind of keep that love for the game alive, or was it like a totally different path?
my parents never. If you're asking if I come from like a household of athletes,
No, what I mean is like, was coaching a continuation of the passion for the game and discipline and all that, or was it like a whole new thing?
oh, that is a great question. So I remember I was working at Home Depot at the time in lumber and building materials, and and this is when I just got done playing arena football. Right, I moved back to Colorado because I wanted to finish my degree, and then I wasn't sure if I was going to coach or not. but I knew I wasn't going to finish my degree, right? So this goes back to what I mentioned earlier about finishing school. So I'll get back to Colorado. Okay, I'm going to finish school, figure out what I'm going to do next with my life, right? Because I'm no longer an athlete. And I remember walking down Home Depot, Jordan. I remember thinking to myself, like, man, is this my life now? Like,
Civilian life.
is this my
Yeah.
life now, right? Because
Yeah.
I had nowhere to be. I had no one to answer to anymore. I had when I was working out, I had no motivation as far as, well, why do I need to stay in shape now? Why do I need to be this strong? I don't need
Yeah.
to be this strong anymore. I don't need to be pushing these kind of weights or doing these kind of lifts or workouts because I'm no longer an athlete, right? So
Right.
I had the freedom, right? And it was cool for like the first 2 months, right? It was
Right.
cool. But then after a while, man, you really begin to question your identity. You really begin to have an identity crisis because you did something for X amount of years, right? 10,
Mhm.
15 years, and all of a sudden you wake up and you don't have those things anymore. Now what? Who are you
Yeah.
now?
A lot of people struggle with that, whether it's leaving the academic world or sports or the military, when you're used to having a structure and a calendar and a community.
Mhm.
And that's the power of those things, for better or for worse. Why people put so much emphasis and emotion and stock in those types of pursuits is because it becomes their life. And for
Right.
better or for worse, for the most part, it's positive. It can be negative, but for the most part, it's positive because it gives you something to belong to identify with, know where you're going to be, know where you stand. And then when you leave that structure and that identity, yeah, you're right. I mean, I understand the feeling. It's like, it's weird. I went to Canada. Instead of going to college and playing basketball, I went to a church-based leadership school in Vancouver, BC, right out of high school. And I'm very grateful that I went. I wish I would have gone to school and played ball, but I'm grateful for that experience. Was a whole other story. But I remember coming back from being in kind of the church bubble in Canada, of all places, back here home to Monterey County, and being like, oh man. And it was tough because all the friends were turning 21. And I was just like, oh, I don't think I'm ready for that whole scene. Like, I've just been in this little bubble for the last couple of years, and all my friends are turning 21 and going out to the bars. And it was like,
Turn up.
it was an interesting time for sure. But so I understand leaving like one world for the other and not knowing how
Oh
to
yeah,
adjust.
100%. And there's guys, man, that I've been friends with. They still haven't recovered, man.
Hmm.
They still haven't recovered because that was their identity, man, since they were young.
They
And
peaked. Yeah.
yeah, man, and that's one of the things I'm very intentional about with my own teams that I coach is that there's life. You are much more than just an athlete, right? And that was those are one of the messages I always convey and spend intentional time on. It's like you are much more than the athlete and the jersey you wear. There's so much more to you, right? And plus the statistics tell us anyway, right? Less than 7% play college football, and then less than 1% go on to the
I know.
NFL. It's gonna
I kind of
end.
I kind of have a issue with all this travel ball and travel cheer and all this kind of stuff, because I have the last few years worked in the financial and real estate world, and I see, people's budgets, and I'm no expert, and I don't have all my stuff together, but I have an idea of the formula that works, and I see the amount of money that people are spending on athletics
Mhm.
and travel ball and stuff for their kids, and I'm like, dude, it's a racket. I'm like, I did a little bit of that as a kid, but it was mostly rec ball and school ball, right? We took a couple of trips here and there, but I mean,
Right.
99.9% of the kids involved in these programs are not playing college, let alone pros. So, I mean, I'm all for student athletes. Absolutely. Go for it. But like, most of those kids are not going to play at that next level. I was like, how do you have that conversation with people? Like,
Right.
and I wish there was a path for those elite kids, because there are kids that are like, you can identify them pretty quickly. Man, if he had the right coaching and the right structure, that kid could play D1 and maybe pro. But that's, you know, those numbers are low.
Very, very low. Yeah.
But anyway, so you decided to get into coaching, finish up your degree, and then did you go right from your degree to right to teaching and coaching, or how did that work?
Yeah, pretty much. So I started off. So going back to school, I re-enrolled, and then my coach was still the head coach at that time, and he said, "Hey, Art, man, since you're back in the town and you're back in school, you want to help coach?" It's like, so we'll give you some money, we'll help pay for your school, like you're on scholarship again. It's like it won't be the same amount, but I will still give you some assistance.
Oh yeah.
I was like, absolutely, coach, let's do it. So then I started coaching, man, and I remember Jordan. It was the first practice. It was during fall camp in the middle of August, and I remember just looking around. And it was in between. We're during a water break in between periods, and I remember just looking around, man, just taking the moment in. as a young coach at what 24, 25 years old. And I remember thinking like, man, this is what I meant. This is
Mm,
what I was meant to do right here as the coach because of the immediate fulfillment, the immediate gratitude and gratification that I got when I gave information to somebody to help them be better. And when I saw it be successful and to see it, the look on their face, to see their reaction, to see their response and the
mm.
confidence grow, I was hooked. I was hooked, man.
That's awesome.
I've been an addict ever since.
That's really cool. It's really cool that you were able to take that passion and experience and it translated perfectly. And then sounds to me in some ways like you're more passionate about coaching than you ever were about playing, which is cool to be able for the next thing to be, which is really cool. Cause like you said, a lot of people are stuck in the past because they didn't find, I believe our lives should kind of gradually improve,
Mhm.
instead, like I said, a lot of people peaked and then they fell, right, and they're kind of stuck there. So as you were kind of progressing, and you found the passion for coaching and you finished your degree, did you start teaching right away, or did you come back home, or what happened then?
Yeah, so in 2009, I finished 2 seasons at Colorado Mason University, and I graduated. And then I remember thinking to myself, like, man, I don't know if I want to be coaching at the four-year level. I was single at the time, and the reason why I thought that was because it's a lot of time, man, to be a 4-year
Mm,
coach. So much time. Job security is low, right? If you don't win, you're going home or you're finding a
yep,
new gig, right? So
yep.
job security wasn't very high. And I was like, man, I don't know if I want to be a college coach, man. And I see the statistics for marriages and then being a
Mm,
family man and not being coaches, not being present in the home. And that was the stigma back then, right? In those
mm,
early 2000s. And I was like, I don't want any part of this. I
mm.
want to be a present husband. I want to be a present father. So I decided to move back to California. And then I started substitute teaching and I started coaching right when I got back. And then I've been doing it ever since.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you worked your way up, and then I know obviously you and Jesse have your story. You met her shortly after that, right?
Yeah, she was one of the main reasons why I even moved back to California is because she what's the term? Expedited it.
Expedited the process.
Yeah, she did. So I was like, well, let's see where this may go to, right? So
I'm gonna see about a girl.
yeah, so
That's awesome. How did and I love that you kind of, and I can kind of relate to that. You knew before you met the person, you knew kind of the life that you already wanted. And
indeed.
then so when the person arrived, that's when it made sense because you kind of already knew what you wanted. And so what would you say? I know in this generation, the younger generation with the dating apps and that kind of stuff, that whole mentality is kind of lacking in this day and age. But what would you say to or people of any age that are eh, maybe not realizing that their purpose and their partner are connected?
I love how you phrased that right there, man. It's the truth, man. If you and your partner are not in alignment, if you have not discussed your goals, because there's a thing about partnership too, especially when it comes to marriage, is that you're not going to be the same person you started the relationship with. You're not going to be the same person through the relationship, and you're not going to be the same person at the end of the relationship, right? So
Right.
if you don't understand and get on the same page as far as, okay, these are my goals, this is what I want to accomplish in my life, this is where I see myself headed. I don't know where the finances are going to come from. I have no idea how I'm going to get paid to support us, right, or provide, but this is what I want to do, right? And I'm going to figure that out. And she was on board with it, man. Like it's like
Mm.
okay, and she carried us, man. She still does carry us. She's been carrying me, right?
She's
And
a badass.
yeah, man. So
Yeah.
she is so my spouse, my wife Jessica, is the reason why I'm still coaching today because
Yeah.
there were moments where I'll tell a quick story. We got pregnant with she got pregnant, not we, but she got pregnant with our firstborn, our son. And I remember thinking I was coaching at Hartnell College at the time. I was an adjunct professor, meaning I could only work part time,
Yeah.
no benefits, right? And I remember thinking, well, I gotta get myself a new job. I gotta get a new job. I got a son coming. Oh, I didn't know I was gonna have a son at the time, but we have a child on the way. We were married. I was like, I have to get myself a real job. So I actually took the test to be a sheriff deputy
Mm.
and went through that process, right? And then again, it got to a point to where I had to make a decision: do I want to continue pursuing this or not, and just keep doing what I'm doing now? And then, sure enough, man, right before I made the decision, Jessica and I were talking, and she said to me like, you don't have to do this." She's like, you don't have to do this. It's okay. We're fine. We're gonna be just fine doing exactly what you're doing now. because you're happy, you're doing what you're really, really good at, and you're going to be a head coach one day. And I believe that, right? And so she
Wow,
saw me as this leader that I didn't even see at the time, right? So the person I am today would never come to fruition if it wasn't for that partner
that's
to know
awesome.
to speak life into you, to see you for who you not only are, but who you can become, right? It's just what was it, the German poet Goethe? He said, "Oh, what did he say? I can't remember the quote now.
Well, that's
Shoot,
powerful. Just having a partner that believes in you,
right?
and it's funny. I get in. I've had such a uh, not really a traditional path in my career or education, but I get invited a lot, like you do, to speak at career days. I just spoke at
Yeah.
Mr. T's class at North High. I love it, but I'm always like, I don't really have the traditional educational career path. But what I share with the students usually is just, hey, man, just be a good person, treat people well, work hard, and keep your word, like you said, and things will kind of work out. And it's okay to not have it all figured out at 17 because nobody really does. There's those weird unicorns that kind of knew, oh, that guy's going to be a doctor or that guy's going to be an engineer or whatever. But, and I think, like you said, people are so concerned about, and obviously in the States and especially in California, the cost of living is high. So financial pressure is a real thing at
Mhm.
every end of the spectrum. Grew up in a big family, grew up poor. We can relate to that, but it's the difference between maybe an extra benefit or an extra 20 or 30K in salary. But if that costs you your peace of mind and your happiness and your health, is it worth it? Right. And so to have a partner that's on that same page, that's priceless. Because I understand that. I've been not married as long as you guys, but going on 3 years now, and with a partner that sometimes we've had our good days and our bad days as well, but what keeps us going is that bigger picture, that purpose. And yeah,
Mhm.
and sometimes in the day to day you get on each other's nerves, just like anything, right? And but that it reminds me of like, well, I believe that we're meant to be together and that we have that bigger picture purpose, so we'll work out the little day to day stuff.
Oh yeah,
And it's priceless. And shame she's a teacher as well, and we have that same, like, we feel like we have the talent to really be successful, but we also, because we don't come from much, we're also very content with, like, we
right.
just want the freedom to travel, roof over our head. We're happy. And so that it's, as millennials who grew up, in California, who grew up in the 90s with like all this success, it can be that temptation, especially now with all this social media flexing. The temptation can be, wow, oh man, I'm not doing enough. I'm not, like, I should be here by now, in this comparison. And like from the Bible, comparison is a thief of joy, right? And it's like, if you are on the same page with your partner and you're both like on the same page about your goals and your quality of life, knowing that, like, having, the older you get, peace is more important than status or what you drive or anything like that. And if you can have peace in your life and peace in your home, that is priceless.
Right.
And I think from that, probably you're going to have some success as a result of that. But if you have the success without that, it's going to
You're still in a
be,
good spot.
it's not going to be good. you know so that's awesome. And we could go, I mean, we could go on and on just about relationship stuff or family stuff, but I've been um, a friend and admirer of both of you, from a distance for a long time, and then we got the opportunity to connect on a deeper level. I think it was because we had so many mutual friends. It's like, how are we not better friends? This
Right,
is crazy.
right,
We literally know all the same people, and it was for both of you guys in different ways.
right, right.
So I'm glad that we finally were able to make that connection a few years ago, and then to kind of watch you guys. Obviously, you had that amazing run that you had at Hartnell, and then at Gonzales, and then you took that opportunity to go back to Colorado. Tell us about that, because it seemed like a little bit of a left field thing, but um, yeah, tell us about how that came about, and what that experience was like.
So let me ask you this, Jordan. When you got the news that we were moving, I took a job, a head football job in Colorado. What were your thoughts on the news?
Well, my first thought was, wow, I'm excited for them, because I know that you wouldn't do anything like that lightly, right, with your family, and I know that you're not a impulsive or reckless person, but I'm also, selfishly, I'm like, man, we need more people like both of you here, not leaving. And I know that there's been a lot of, specifically here in Monterey County, it's a great place to grow up. It's a great place to raise a family and retire. But as a young adult, it's not that exciting, right? And so I
Right.
totally understand when people from 18 to 30 want to get out. And I get it, because I did the same thing. And I also hope that a lot of people do come back for the climate, for their family, for the food,
Right.
for whatever reason. But I hate to see really great people leave because they got a better job or they got better housing or whatever, for whatever the reason is. I always want to see the best people stay, and you guys are some of those best people. So that's kind of where it was. I was like excited for you, but also like, dang, it sucks to lose them because they're a big part of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
community.
yeah. Absolutely, man. So I get this phone call from a former teammate of mine from college, and he's a head football coach at the college level. And he calls me up, hey man, my pastor and one of my good friends growing up, they're gonna buy a private school. There's a private school that's gonna they're selling it and they want to buy it. Well, he wants to hire a really good football coach. So he called me for he called me because of our history and our relationship through the years, and he's seen me grow up, and he knows I'm the coach I am today. And he asked me, "Hey, do you have any names for me so I can hire somebody?" And the question he asked me, like, "Hey, well, would you want somebody who really good football coach but doesn't really love Jesus, or you want someone who really loves Jesus but doesn't really coach football very very well, right?" And then he's like, "Well, I want both. I want a guy who loves Jesus and a guy who's a good coach." He's like, "Okay." He's like, "So you know what you're asking me, right? That's a very tough find." And he's like, "But I have one guy." He's like, "I have one guy, and he's the guy for the job." He's like, "But good luck trying to get him to move and leave California." So sure enough, my boy calls me up. Hey man, my pastor, his name is Rick Long. He's going to give you a call here in a few minutes. We talked about it. He's looking for a new head football coach. He has this great vision of this new school that he's building, and he wants you to be a part of it. It's like he wants to talk to you. It's like okay. So we talked. We had a few meetings on Zoom, and we were in negotiations for about a month and a half, I want to say, and then we took a trip out there to see just to check out the school and the community where we might live. And I thought it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up, man. Jessica and I had a lot of conversations about it. What do you want to do? How can we make this work with the business? Because my wife's a small business owner, right? In the day spa industry. So how can we make this work? So what we did was we took the offer in March, but I still have the school semester to finish up, right? Until June, till graduation. So because I'm still under contract. So I have to finish up the school year before I can move to Colorado. So then during that time, my wife Jessica, she's prepping her staff. Hey, this is the transition. This is what our family we're deciding to do. We need to get up to speed, so we're all have to be on the same page. When I'm leaving, so I'm gonna start opening my own studio there, another Vinia spa in Colorado, but also coming back and forth and still running this place. But I need your help to do that. For this to be successful, I need your help. So she coached them up, trained them, and within the first 8 weeks, Jordan, living in Colorado, the numbers came back from the spa and it just wasn't working out.
Yeah.
It wasn't working out. So we had to make the decision. Hey, you need to go back home full time, stop splitting time to and from California and Colorado, running your business, go back home. And we didn't sell our house, right, Jordan? So we were able to do all this stuff, right? So we kept our house still. We had no renters. My in-laws live with us, right? So they're taking care of their house for us while we're away. And that's what happened, man. Yeah, I took an opportunity, man. I took an opportunity to be very, very uncomfortable, something I had no experience with as far as working at a private school institution, right? Man, knowing what I know now, those who are listening, I've moved back since then. I was out there for nearly 2 years. I was there for 2 full football seasons, and I had such a great experience, man. The amount of support and things I learned about myself, about being part of a biblical based institution, man, on a daily basis has really enhanced my life in a way that I can never experience other than being in that building, man. It really has made me so much better.
That's cool. And, I'm inspired by you guys, and not a lot of people would take that risk or make that change. And, obviously the inconvenience, and it had to be a family affair, right? Your kids made
Yeah.
sacrifices, wife made
Yep.
sacrifices, you made sacrifices. And I think, but what an amazing contribution that you guys made to that school and that church and those kids. And I'm sure it's gonna, impact you guys, and you're gonna have a relationship there. And I understand having spent a lot of time, like I said, in British Columbia and in Seattle, having like your heart in different places and having family in different places. Like I understand how that feels. We kind of got out of chronological order, and I can't, which is fine, but I can't. We can't let you go without talking about your time at Gonzalez, because what you
Okay.
did there was special. And then we'll jump back from that to what's next.
Okay.
But tell us about what evolved locally to get you to Gonzales, what you inherited, and what you were able to accomplish there because it was pretty special.
Yeah, so I was hired as a head football coach at Gonzales High School in 2017. My son was just born in January. He was a newborn when I took the position. And the first thing I had to do is make sure I surrounded myself with good men, right? Build a coaching staff, guys who are going to see the vision, believe in the vision, and then go on mission with me, right? And that's the number one thing as a head coach, man, is I learned just through observation because I was an assistant coach for 10 years before I got my first head coaching opportunity.
Wait,
And
again, for the young people that are being impatient.
say that one more time.
I said, say that again for the young people watching that are impatient, thinking they should be CEO on day one.
I was an assistant coach for 10 years before I got my first head coaching opportunity. And the timing was just perfect, man. There's just things I had to go through and learn from great leaders and not so great leaders.
Yep.
What to do. I learned what to do. I learned what not to do.
Yep.
So I could become the head coach and the leader I am today. Right. I had to take all those lessons in.
Yep.
And I get to Gonzales. I inherited a program that was 1-9, and they haven't been in the playoffs, I think, since 2002 or 2003. Their last playoff win was 1997.
Oh, wow.
And their last championship was also, I believe, it was in 2002. So it's been some time, right? It's been over 15 years. They had losing streaks to PG, like where they haven't been Pacific Grove in 15 years. They're in a 9-year losing streak to King City. I'm so sorry, 14-year losing streak to King City.
Dang.
14 straight years. Their rival. Those who don't know, King City Gonzales is one of the longest rivalries in Monterey County, if not the longest rivalry in Monterey County.
Yeah, two of the original schools. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then Soledad, we were my alma mater, right? They had a 9-year losing streak to them. So year one is always the hardest year, right? And it's always the toughest year. You're going against change. Somebody's news coming in, implementing their own vision, new way of doing things. So you're always going to get resistance, right? As a leader in any organization or corporation, you're always going to get resistance when you're the new guy and you're trying to change the culture. We're trying to make it better, right? At least from your perspective, your point of view. In order for this to work, in order for us to get the results that you're asking for, that you say you want, we have to do things this way because I've learned it works.
Whether it's in sports or in business, sometimes you got to go back to go forward. You got to go back and fix the faulty foundation, and you can't just slap a coat of paint on a structural issue. You got to fix the foundational issues, and so it sounds like that's what you did then. So okay, you get through year one, you make all the changes, and inevitably, one thing about sports, it's not just about leading young men, as challenging as that can be. Because I've been a coach in basketball and track. A lot of times, it's you know the school staff that's a challenge, or the parents that's a challenge, or other people that don't like change, or don't like some young hotshot coming in and making changes or calling the shots. And I've dealt with that too. Like the opposition sometimes you face is not on the field, and obviously we have to be careful. Sometimes what we say, but like what would you say to people who maybe they didn't, maybe they gave in or they gave up because of resistance from like parents or community or coworkers, or how do you deal with that when you know what your mission is, but you realize that there's challenges to that mission?
I'm purpose driven, man. I'm not people driven. So
Mm,
I don't need the approval of others for me to be my best and do my best. I don't need it.
it's good.
I'll love to have it. If you're going to
Yeah,
support
sure.
me, I'll take it.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong, I'll take it, right? But if you're not on, but if you don't want to ride with me, right? If you don't want to support me, or you want to, like, you're hoping that I fail, which I have those people, right?
Yeah.
I have those people where they can't wait for me to fail, and they motivate me, man. You know what I mean? Like, they motivate me. They keep me sharp. They keep me on pace. They help me more than hurt me. So,
Sure.
keep doing. So I really embrace that, right? I embrace that.
Sucks to be them, but yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what it is, man. Like, I just understand this is what I've been called to do, right? This is a calling of my life, and there's nothing they can say that's going to deter me or discourage me from being
Yeah.
who I am. None. There's nothing they can do.
I love that. You're a coach. Regardless of your title at the time, or your job at the time, you're a coach. You're a leader, like you said. And I felt that to myself because I was in ministry when I was younger, and probably too much responsibility too young. But because I have that talent, that it was kind of was put on me, and then you get disoriented and you get disheartened by people in the crowd, by the haters, by
Yep.
the challenges that happen, right? And so I felt like I went through my own decades long journey of that time in the desert of being, confused about my calling, being confused. And then I realized people would ask me, "Oh, do you think you'll ever be a pastor again?" And I say, "Well, I don't think I'll ever work for a church, but I never stopped being a pastor." And then people say, "Oh, or you think you're going to run for office one day?" I said, "I don't care if I have the title. I'm already leading my community."
That's right.
And so I love that about you. You're doing the same thing. You're like, your title or your like employer might change, but your calling doesn't change. And so
That's
I'm
right.
and that's I think that's why we connected, because it's like I see that same thing in you. It's like, and we've have our good days and our bad days. I'm not always as confident as I might sound right now, but when you have that conviction of like, no, I know who I am, I know what I'm supposed to do, and either get on board or don't, but I can't let anything distract me. And to have a partner that supports you in that is the game changer. 'Cause we'll do it on our own regardless, but if you have, a partner, that's I mean, that's a double blessing, right?
No doubt.
Yeah. So you got through that, you turned it around, and tell us
Yeah.
about some of the success you had at Gonzalez.
Yeah, man. We ended up winning 11 straight football games. We win up. We host our first or our first CCF playoff game since 95. I think was the last home where they hosted a playoff game at home. I believe was 95.
Wow.
And and then we ended up winning that playoff game, right? Oh, it was such a great experience, man. It came all the way down to the last play of the game, a Hail Mary.
Like a movie.
Yeah, we're on defense and we break the pass up. Our defense breaks the pass up and we just celebrate afterwards and we win the game, moving on and lose to a very good Carmel team in the semifinals the very next week. But we did extraordinary things together, man. And we don't accomplish what we accomplished, being league champions, being a playoff contender, not losing a home game, Jordan, in 2 seasons, 2 years straight. We didn't lose a home game. And you cannot do that, man, without surrounding yourself with great men, right? You cannot do that, man. You can't accomplish those things without the team being led by the players and not the coaches. Where the players took responsibility and ownership of their team, like, hey, man, this is the standard we want to set. These are the goals. How can we do that together, right? And then what are some of the challenges that we can foresee that's gonna get in the way of that, right? Which is success, learning how to handle success, and being intentional about that as the coach to teach them, hey, man, we can't allow success to get in the way, to cloud our judgment, we cannot get in our own way to what we want to accomplish, right? So we got to keep the same mentality we had when we were 3-7 as to what we are at 11-0, right?
That's good. That's
So
so good. Yeah, because you can't really control how tall people are, or how fast they are, or how talented
no,
they are. That helps, but what you can control is those character issues and those leadership
no
issues.
doubt.
That's awesome. So you've had quite the career. Obviously, there's more to all those stories, but now that you're home, which welcome back home officially, by the way. Now that you're home and you've been through that whole experience, it's come full circle. I'm sure you have plenty of options and ideas and opportunities, but whatever you're able to share, what do you feel like is next for you and for your family?
I have some options, right? So, which is a very good thing. I'm at the place in my life now, Jordan, where I need quality of life, man.
Hmm.
I don't care about the salary. I don't care about that. I just care about this quality of life, being present, being available, especially being the last year and a half away from my family, where we did the long distance thing for a year and a half, and to where I had to go 64 days without seeing my son. Right, was the longest stretch of
Hmm.
days where I didn't see my family, and then so that's where I'm at right now, is making sure that I am available, so making sure that I'm able to have opportunities to be present. So if I want to go pick my kids up from school, I can go do that. If I want to go to an event at their school, I can step away from the office or or my class or the school that I'm at and be able to do those things, right? So
Hmm.
I'm actually, gosh, man, this is breaking news right here. So I actually got hired as an instructor at Hartnell College.
Awesome.
Okay,
Welcome back.
thank you. So everything I just mentioned, being at the community college level allows me to do that.
Yeah.
That gives me the opportunity to do that, right? I have not been, I'm not coaching football as of right now. So I got hired as an instructor. It looks very, very promising as far as that process, as far as being my goal to be the head coach at Hartnell College, right? But I have to go through the process. They're gonna.
Yep. Yep.
So that's all I can say as of right now is that
Yep.
I'm hired as an instructor. I'm on campus. I start teaching classes on Monday, and I have to wait for the football piece to present itself, and then I'm going to go through that process when it comes.
Shit, you might end up being one of my teachers.
And
That'd be
not,
awesome. Very cool. Very cool. That's exciting. That's amazing. I'm just glad that you're both back home. And whatever you end up doing around the world, we may end up living abroad at some point, but there's something special about this area. And
yes,
I'm happy to see two local kids just become successful. And again, that's everyone defines that differently, but I think the best part in my definition is living your life on your terms, right? Which you guys are doing, which is awesome. And when I say your terms, I mean God terms, obviously, but um, you're just a great example of that, of a young family, of a young couple, business people, leaders. And so super grateful. We forgot to mention that you also have a podcast and are a speaker and an author and the whole nine. Uh, so we could go on a whole other thing on that. Hopefully, we can sit down together again soon in person. But before we let you go, two things. One, where can everybody find you online or otherwise? And then two, what would you like to just the last thing you'd like to say to the audience before we go?
yeah. So I'm pretty active on social media. So my handle is at Coach A as an apple, A Berlanga, at Coach A Berlanga from Twitter or X, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm on those platforms, so you can reach me there. I also have a website called artberlanga.com, artberlanga.com as well. So if you want to take a look at my website, that's all my mental preparation stuff, my mental strategies that I teach athletes and the teams that I work with. So as far as a message to leave the audience, man, I think about fight. I think about the word fight. So I remember my daughter was just, man, she was only a few months old, maybe 4 or 5 months old, man. I remember I was just getting ready for my day in the morning and I saw her crawling, and we had a laundry basket right there, empty laundry basket. So she starts crawling, working her way to a laundry basket. She pulls herself up. She gets to a standing position and then she falls down. She loses balance and she falls down. She starts to cry, right, Jordan?
Mm-hmm.
And I took a step towards her, right? Because as a father, as anyone, like you see somebody see somebody hurt, you want to help them, right? Especially if it's your own child. So sure enough, I take a couple steps towards my daughter to help her, and I hit the brakes. And I said to myself, like, let's just see how she's going to respond here. Let's see what kind of fight my little girl has, right? So
Mm-hmm.
sure enough, man, I waited and I just watched. And about 30 seconds go by. She stops crying, believe it or not. She rolls back over to her belly. She works her way back to the laundry basket, and she props herself up again for a second time, but she falls again. But this time she popped up immediately, right? Rolled over, boom, boom, third attempt. She sticks the landing on the third attempt. And I remember getting ready that morning, Jordan. I remember thinking to myself, man, my little girl I just learned something from her, man. I learned that we were all at 4 or 5 months old, as young as my daughter was. She wasn't a year old yet. And I saw the fight within her. I
Mm-hmm.
saw the spirit, the fighting spirit within my little girl at just a few months old. And that has taught me that we were all born with that spirit. We're all born with that spirit to do extraordinary things. We just have to fight for it. We got to be persistent for it. If you get knocked down, as the cliche goes, you got to get back up, right? As the great Les Brown once said, he said, if you fall down, make sure you land on your back so you can look up and you can get up.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be my message to the audience, man. Is fight for
Awesome.
what you want, man.
That's a great way. That's a great way to end. Fight for what you want. Let that be the theme of 2025. We're excited to see where your journey takes you. Thank you for sharing some time with us,
Oh,
and we will be in touch. Thank you so much, man. Have a great night.
pleasure. Thank you, Jordan.